Now, Brett, college football, it's been full of surprises to start off this season. We've seen plenty of top 25 teams topple down, including last week we saw Cincinnati, a team you and I have discussed plenty on this podcast over the past couple of years, march into South Bend and take Notre Dame down. It's interesting, it's intriguing, and I'm eyeing some top 25 matchups this weekend. How about you?
Yeah, I think you mentioned there were a lot of great games last weekend. And kind of funny, Higgins. I don't know if this caught your eye at all, but two of the biggest disappointing teams last week, Ole Miss and Arkansas, well, they get to square off this week. So one of those teams that was darling the first few weeks of the season is now going to have back-to-back losses, and their season just got really ugly really quick.
Yeah, that Arkansas against Georgia game surprised a lot of people. 80% of the handle was on Arkansas for the spread, and then Ole Miss, no one really expected that, but I mean, Alabama, they've done that to SEC teams time and again. So if you ask me, the Arkansas blowout by Georgia, that one was a little more surprising, but those two teams facing off this weekend, that is going to be a game that I'm circling and I'm betting closer to Saturday, but not on this podcast. On this podcast, I have a Friday game circled that I actually really like, Brett.
Yeah, okay, Higgins, where are you starting?
I'm starting on the West Coast. We got Stanford versus Arizona State on Friday night, a Pac-12 matchup. And these are two teams that have each kind of made their waves in the Pac-12 already this season. I mean, you have an Arizona State team that has a loss to BYU, but they most recently just won against UCLA. And they've played some pretty good football so far this season. And then you have a Stanford team that they lost to UCLA, but then bounced back last weekend and won against Oregon in a shocking manner. So I expect this to be a very interesting matchup, but the line is currently, depending on what sportsbook you look at it, it might be at minus 13, it might be at minus 13 and a half. I think it's going to move potentially all the way to 14 by Friday. So I'm going to be grabbing Arizona State at minus 13 and a half because that's the book that I can bet on. That's the book I can find it at right now. Minus 13 and a half because I want that little bit of an edge before it goes to a full two-score game. So Arizona State and the Sun Devils, they're hosting Stanford. Late Friday night game. If you're on the East Coast, it might be a little too late for you. You might be out at the bars. You might be asleep, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be a late game, but I'll be here on the West Coast, and I love the Sun Devils in this matchup.
All right. Yeah, I mean, Stanford's been pretty good this year. Their quarterback, Tanner McKee, I believe,
Yep.
has been very good. Jalen Daniels, Arizona State quarterback, is a guy who I like a lot, kind of a dual threat guy. Came in a year early, I believe, to Arizona State. Maybe I'm a little wrong. Maybe it was only a semester early. But either way, committed early to Herm Edwards. Been there for 2 years as a starter. This is now year three. So, Arizona State being in the top 25, not shocking to me personally, Higgins, but Stanford definitely surprising some people this year. And Tanner McKee is a guy we definitely need to keep our eye on. But Higgins, I am hopping over to probably the biggest rivalry game of the weekend, the Red River Shootout at the Cotton Bowl at the Texas State Fair. Everyone's favorite game. And Higgins, you can't call your game the Red River Shootout and bet unders. So I am going over 63 and a half in the shootout in the Cotton Bowl at the State Fair. Get a fried Oreo, get yourself an over, and go enjoy a football game, Higgins.
Well, Brett, I can't disagree with you whenever you take an over in the Big 12, and especially you're going back to the well with the Texas pick because last episode you took the over in the Texas Tech versus Texas game, and Texas covered that over on their own. They scored 70 points. So I'd feel confident like you in this one. My only reason I'd stay away, other than the Pillars, though, is Oklahoma. The last time I took an over on them was the Oklahoma-Nebraska game. That wasn't close to going over. It wasn't. So, but Big 12 matchup, Oklahoma, Texas, neutral site. I love it over 63 and a half. Let's see 10, 12, 14 touchdowns. Why not?
14 touchdowns. Wow. Could you imagine that?
70 to 28 or something like that would be unreal. But Brett, I also do find myself on an over under as well. It's a game that I have a twofer for a bet. I'm on the spread and I'm on the over under, and it's in the Big Ten. I mentioned one of these teams just a little bit ago, Nebraska. I was betting on the Nebraska Oklahoma game a couple weeks ago. I'm going back to the well, betting on the Michigan Nebraska game, Brett. But to be honest, I don't get the hype of this card. Michigan is minus 3.5, and maybe it's because Nebraska just blew out Northwestern last week and they played two close games before that they lost. But Michigan's been able to play really well so far this season, has played in the Big Ten extremely strong, and minus 3.5. I think this line should be at least a full touchdown. So I'm going to be jumping on this right now before it moves because I think it's going to be moving.
Yeah, I'm with you, Higgins. This line obviously stands out to me. Um, can't bet it because I'd want to be on the Michigan side, but you're already there. And truthfully, Higgins, I know I said this to you, and I'm obviously staying off of it to keep our pillars up there, give one of us a chance at winning. But truthfully, man, this is a trap. Like the books are telling me straight up with this line that they think Nebraska is good for some reason, and I can't figure out why. So that means Nebraska's good for some reason. Like it just is what it is, right? Like this game screams trap line to me. But again, if I were to bet it, I would be where you are, Higgins. So I would be falling right into that trap there with you.
You're not wrong. I mean, 79% of the money is on Michigan's spread at minus 3.5. So why isn't that moving closer to that touchdown, like I said? Is it a trap to what you said? If it is,
It's actually
I'm
moving
jumping
the
in and I
other
got to
way.
learn the hard way.
It's moving the other way based on what you have minus 115 on the Nebraska side.
Yeah, I mean, but what does that how does that make sense compared to where the public money is? Like you're pointing out a very clear sign of a potential trap game right here. I agree. I'm just falling right into it. I'm falling right into it, absolutely, and hopefully it wins, but I'm going to be betting this game in another sense as well. The over under of this game, it's set at 50.5, and Brett, I'm taking the under in this game. That's because both of these teams' defenses have been pretty strong, allowing just around 2 touchdowns per game. Nebraska's averaging 15.5 points per game. Michigan's averaging about 12. But if you look at how these teams have played against competitive play, like Nebraska against Michigan State, for example, that was an overtime game that went 23 to 20. You look at the Nebraska Oklahoma game that was also very competitive. Oklahoma won that one 23 to 16, 39 points. So this is not even just a one score away potential from that over under. That's 10, 12 points away from that. So I'm taking the under 50.5 here because something tells me this is going to be, if Nebraska's going to be competitive in this game, like this trap is insinuating, it's going to be because the black shirts are stopping the Wolverines from moving the ball. I don't think it's going to be because Adrian Martinez is running up the score for the Huskers.
Yeah, fair enough, Higgins. And I'd say if that is, how you see the game going, then you should definitely be on that under because this would be pretty decent scoring game for the Big Ten, to be honest. We've seen some low scoring ones. Great game in the Big Ten this weekend, Higgins, over in Iowa City, actually. I almost said Ames, but that's where Iowa State is. Iowa City, as Penn State travels to Iowa, so that should be a good one as well in the Big Ten, Higgins. And lots of fun football this weekend. But